And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast alongside Todd Erzen and McIntire. I'm Steve Deace. We're brought to you by our friends over at BIRCH Gold. We are days away from what's been dubbed as the Rio Reset. That's where the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance over 80 years, the so-called BRICS nations, will be having their meeting, although it may be down a man because one of those is Iran, and they are somewhat predisposed at the moment, right? But it's another reminder that even when our guys are in charge, there are still plenty of bad guys out there that want to do us harm on multiple fronts. So now is a great time to secure your finances with BIRCH Gold. How can you protect an IRA or 401k from the fallout of a landmark shift like the events of the last week? Well, you can diversify with gold from BIRCH Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven for times such as this of uncertainty, right? So get a free info kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word Steve to 989-898. That's text Steve to 989-898. Text Steve to the number 989-898 and claim your free info kit today from BIRCH Gold.
Just so I can save 500 people. Let me do this for you, because I know you love this. Actually, Steve, the iron breaks is India. So you can save your emails for Steve, because I just did it for you.
Thank you. It was Iran in my copy.
It was?
It was in my copy. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Yes. Yeah, Iran is in my copy. That's why I said it. So, but
there's going to be people emailing you regardless.
Yes. Yeah. I just, to this day, and I'll get a few of these every day, it just blows my mind that somebody thinks they have the time in their life, okay, for such trivialities. But who knows? I mean, right now, apparently the gotcha clip going around is that a rando U.S. senator doesn't know the population of every global state in the world off the top of his head. And that's supposedly, trivia night now. That's what we're doing here, okay? We're just at the bar in between, peanut shells and shots. Well, we're just winning bar bets on who knows the rando total population of said rando country. All the while, of course, we're America first. We're America first, but you must know the populations of all other global entities while being America first, of course. No references to anything specific, but I digress. In fact, I digress to a very special announcement from none other than Richie himself.
So I'm sitting in class and my teachers all cheer, talking about rainbows like, yay, best time of year. She wore pins and stickers, had rainbowy flair, even rainbow-shaped glasses on top of her hair. I whispered, whoa, she really digs light. But something felt off. Did she get it right? I thought rainbows meant God's promise, not trends, not flags or a slogan, or likes we pretend. So I did some research, aka I read a book. It's called Richie Meets the Rainbow. Go take a look. By Steve Deace, it shows what's true and profound. God made that rainbow after flood hit the ground. So next time you see one, remember what's true. It's not just for pride, it's God saying, I'm with you.
I want to thank my buddies over, Jeremy Grant and his team over at 110 Pictures, who put that together for us. And they were who produced the nefarious Bible study a couple of years ago that we were very proud of. Well, yesterday was a big day for Richie Meets the Rainbow. All right, the book took a huge leap on Amazon yesterday. And folks, we're this close. We are at the doorstep of being a best-selling book in the LGBTQ FU category at the number one book retailer in the history of planet Earth, Amazon. Now, I've had, by God's grace, I've been a part of number one bestsellers. I've been a part of presidential campaigns. I got to make a movie. Not to mention, I'm a dad, and that's pretty cool. And I have 3 adult children, and so far, even though we don't always see eye to eye, none of them hate me. That's pretty good. Take that, all right? But I have to tell you, you want to talk about career milestones? I mean, if I could go back, we just celebrated my 25th year in broadcasting a few weeks ago. And if I could go back and say, in 25 years, and I could list all of these various accomplishments and say, but you're going to have a bestseller in the LGBTQ FU category, I'm not so sure that wouldn't be at the top of the list. I mean, other than being a dad. I mean, in terms of career accomplishments. So we need you guys' help to get there. We are this close to getting into the top 100 of LGBTQ FU books in the United States in the heart of Pride Month. And that would force Amazon to now list Richie Meets the Rainbow as a bestseller in that category. So if you're not going to do it for the children, would you consider doing it for me? Better yet, your children. Better yet, this is, no pun intended, one hell of a troll. Right in the heart of Pride Month, all right? Drive a stake through the heart of Pride. If you've not gotten your book yet, all right, you can be a part of making the origin story of Pride Month a bestseller during Pride Month in the LGBTQ FU category right now. Go to Amazon.com, search for Richie Meets the Rainbow. If you get your copy today, leave us a 5-star review. If you got your book and you loved it, thank you. Or you heard one of the reads we did on the show, those help too. But we're on the doorstep of legendary status here. Legendary status, a legendary troll. And who knows, you might be the sale that put us over the top. It might be you, all right?
I think you're saying you agree with Hillary Clinton. It does take a village.
It does take a village. Yeah, it does take a village, indeed. It takes a village to burn the previous village. I think we agree on that. Is that what we're saying? Yes. All right, so that's what we're doing here. All right, so go to, metaphorically speaking, of course. So go to Amazon, search for Richie Meets the Rainbow, RICHIE, get your copy today. Help us to achieve legendary status, best-selling author in the LGBTQ FU category, right in the heart of Pride Month. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate each and every one of you. And with that, we got a jam-packed show today. Daniel Horowitz is going to join us later. I'm going to let Daniel unload. I'm going to tee something up for him and just let him unload from there. Okay? So we're going to do that, and we're going to get to buy, sell, or hold. But right now, let's get to Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by a holding pattern. The United States has not gotten involved in strikes on Iran yet, but President Trump addressed the Iran issue on the White House lawn this morning.
Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this.
Meanwhile, Israel spent another night attacking targets within Iran, and Ayatollah Khamenei continued his defiance and messaging online and launching missiles towards Israel. Of course, nearly all were intercepted. Tucker Carlson invited Senator Ted Cruz on for an interview. Cruz, of course, is not exactly a Lindsey Graham when it comes to overseas wars. Nevertheless, Carlson pulled this on him.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even. You don't know anything about Iran.
And now a new segment on the Montage called Fun Facts About Iran So You Don't Get Got by Tucker Carlson. Fun fact number 1, Iran's national flower is the lotus, or Nilumbo nucifera, symbolizing purity and resilience, often found in Persian art and literature. Fun fact number 2, the Persian cat, known for its long, fluffy fur and round face, originated in Iran, historically Persia, and was first documented in Europe in the 17th century. Fun fact number 3, Iranian tea culture involves serving tea in small, curved glasses called estikhan, often with a sugar cube held between the teeth while sipping, a habit called gand palu. It's a new segment called Fun Facts About Iran So You Don't Get Got by Tucker Carlson. Learning Chinese today, today's phrase is, this is all very sophomoric.
这一切都非常幼稚.
According to a new poll from Trafalgar, 74.4% of Americans Americans approve of President Trump's position that Iran must not have a nuclear weapon. 23% disapprove and around 3% have no opinion. Moving on, a huge win for sanity at the Supreme Court, who ruled 6-3 to uphold Tennessee's law that bans meatball surgeries for children in the name of gender. You'll recall during oral arguments, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, that's the same justice who, when asked during her confirmation if she knew what a woman was, replied by saying she's not a biologist. Well, she compared this Tennessee law to banning interracial marriage.
As I read the statute here, the case here, the court starts off by saying that Virginia is now one of 16 states which prohibit and punish marriages on the basis of racial classifications. And when you look at the structure of that law, it looks in terms of, you can't do something that is inconsistent with your own characteristics. It's sort of the same thing. So,
fortunately, the court ignored her and wrote in the ruling in U.S. v. Scarametti, quote, "The court's role is not to judge the wisdom, fairness, or logic of the ban on surgically mutilating minors, but only to ensure that the law does not violate equal protection guarantees. It does not. Questions regarding the law's policy are thus appropriately left to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process." The Federal Reserve is meeting today to talk about interest rates. Back to President Trump, who has a new nickname for Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
He's not a smart person. I don't even think he's that political. I think he hates me, but that's okay. He should. He should. I call him every name in the book, trying to get him to do something. I've been nice to him. I do it always. I don't know how to sell. I've been so nice to him, fellas, you wouldn't believe. Let's have dinner. Too late? I'd call him too late. Come on, too late. Let's have dinner. I do it every way in the book. I'm nasty. I'm nice. Nothing works. He's like just a stupid person.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent smacked the panicans when it comes to tariffs.
TDS, and a lot of people think that's Trump derangement syndrome. It's tariff derangement syndrome.
Right, the next stage.
The next stage. Yeah. And I think that a lot of Democrats are in favor of tariffs, but now that President Trump is leading the charge, they can't be. And so they call them the Trump tariffs. And that all these predictions have just been baseless and a flop, and nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to admit it.
A couple of wins from Maha. Kraft Heinz announced on Tuesday it's going to be removing artificial food dyes from its products within the next 2 years, with General Mills announcing a similar measure in the same day. In a press release on Tuesday, General Mills said it's working to remove certified colors from K-12 school foods by summer of 2026 and then all foods by the end of 2027. And finally, an oldie but a goodie.
If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn it off with the other also. Unless they're a Republican. Then you can feel free to punch them in the face. Let the children come unto me, and do not hinder them, unless they might be born into poverty, or they might be an inconvenience to your party lifestyle. In that case, feel free to murder them in the womb. Haven't you read that in the beginning, God created them male and female, and genderqueer, femboy, trans man, trans woman, two-spirit.
That's Woke Jesus from the Babylon Bee, and that's what happened while we were away.
Still one of the greatest pieces of social commentary produced this decade is that video. It goes about 5 minutes. And the best part is the editing is intersperses Woke Jesus, continuing on with the many gender variations in between the reassessing and the reconstruction of the Beatitudes. It's just absolutely brilliant. Aaron's Montage is brought to you by our friends over at Real Estate Agents I Trust. In these unprecedented times,
Bing.
Make sure you've got an agent that can guide you through all the changes that have gone on since we last had a real estate market about 5 or 6 years ago. Because a lot has changed, right? And so more than ever before, you want to make sure you've got an agent you can trust. We'll hook you up with that where the website says it all. RealestateAgentsITrust.com is where you can go. That's RealestateAgentsITrust.com. We'll get you hooked up with an agent from either where you are or where you want to go, whose track record of success we have proven, verified, or we wouldn't recommend them to you. And a lot of times they come from right here in our audience. RealestateAgentsITrust.com is where you want to go so that you can get to ultimately where you want to go, which is a win. That's RealestateAgentsITrust.com. All right, let's try to tackle. I mean, there's several worthy items to discuss here in this montage here today. Let's do this. Let us, for now. I want to table the Tucker Cruz thing for the next segment. Can we spend a segment on that next segment? You guys okay with that?
Sure.
All right. Particularly this clip. All right. I think it merits more discussion than just my snotty little aside. Okay. Both those guys, I know them both. I know one a lot better than any of the other, but I do know them both, and I have an immense amount of respect for both of their intellects. And I'm just beyond annoyed. When I first saw that they sat down for 2 hours, I thought, on the heels of the debate we tried to just, host on our own show yesterday with varying voices on our side.
Hopefully more of the same.
These are two of the smartest guys I have met in our industry, in our movement, in my almost 20 years working here. And so when I first saw this, and I thought, holy crap, okay, now 2 hours too? Now we're getting somewhere. All right, now we're gonna everybody's narratives are gonna get questioned, and we're gonna come now and reason together. And the first clip is, do you know the rando population of Iran? Okay. And I'm like, come on, man. Okay. So I want to spend more time on that next segment. All right. I want to talk about the Trafalgar poll. I haven't told this story in a long time, but longtime listeners to the show might remember this story. We did a bunch of polling on for personhood, and personhood was kind of the proto version of what they call themselves abolitionists now. People that were we were actually trying to create a way to end abortion, not just regulate it. Okay, and there was a lot of concerns coming out of I think it was the 2012 cycle. Maybe it was even 2010. And we had 2 U.S. Senate candidates, Todd Aiken in Missouri, Richard Murdoch in Indiana. I think it was 2012 now that I think about it, that both lost Senate seats in red states that they should not have lost. And it was because they both really fumbled over the question about, babies conceived in rape and incest. Okay. And so there was a lot of reassessing of pro-life messaging after that election cycle. And I was involved in doing polling of 5 battleground states and Iowa. And the reason why we did Iowa is because we were going to have the 2016 Iowa caucus cycle was going to start the day after the 2012 election with Romney's loss, right? And so we wanted to see what the environment was in these battleground states, but also in the first in the nation caucus state where all these presidential candidates were going to come. Early on in the survey, we asked the following question. I won't be able to quote it for you verbatim, but it's pretty close to what I'm about to tell you. Early on, we asked the following question, which was, do you believe a woman who is raped or a victim of incest should be forced against her will to carry her baby to term? That's the question we asked early in the poll. And about 80% of people said no. All right. And so again, this was about 12, 14 years ago. Okay. Ask a bunch of other questions. And then later in the poll, we asked the same question again, but we asked it differently. And the question we asked was, do you believe an unborn baby conceived in rape or incest should be executed for the crimes of his father? And about 65% of people said no. So not a complete reversal based on the premise of the question, but pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. That how the question was framed made all the difference, right? Whoever's premise is what's being argued is going to win the argument every time. It's just a matter of how long it will take. Might happen in 10 minutes, might happen in 10 years. But if we're arguing your premise, you're going to win the argument. We're arguing their premise, they are. Okay? And so the framing of that question was the determination of the premise of the argument. Are we putting the emphasis on the child or the emphasis on the mother? All right? I feel like the polling we're seeing on Iran is similar. I saw 2 polls yesterday. I saw this one from Trafalgar, who obviously is very MAGA, at least MAGA adjacent, if not MAGA intersected. Fair? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
That showed, 74-23, Trump 2024 voters do not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. CNN is out with a poll this morning, not that we hold them in any regard whatsoever, but I only mention it because their numbers are almost exactly what Trafalgar has. I think they had 78% of Republicans do not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. All right. But I saw another poll that asked this question. Do you want the United States involved in a regime change war in Iran? And what do you think those numbers were? Not entirely flipped, but pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. Again, it comes down to the premise of the question we're debating here, right? The reason we're having this debate, the reason we're having this debate, well, there's three reasons. One, the least likely reason is we've just seen a resurgence of clownish anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic tropes. Okay, but as much as people follow Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and the garbage they're peddling on social media, the average Republican voter you encounter on the street is not going to either know who a Nick Fuentes is or probably still thinks that Candace Owens is doing Blexit and hanging out with Kanye. Has no idea the heel turn that she has been under. We're now apparently, the new thing is quoting Benjamin Netanyahu's father's original last name to show he's not a real Jew, but a Polish Jew. I find that ironic for a black woman who's often been accused of being a house Negro because of her perpetuation of conservative tropes and not really black. Now suddenly wants to go out there and determine who's really Jewish. Anybody else find the irony in that, or is it just really me? Anyway, but that's. For all the bot engagement farming that draws on X, I think I made Todd nervous with that, looking at the look on his face. Okay, that's hard to do. So I'm already very proud of how this show is going right now. Okay, so that's just all bot engagement, farming losers in a basement. That's not really a major factor in this debate at all. It's a social media phenomenon, but nobody is sitting around at the National Security Council, regardless of where they stand, thinking, well, crap, Candace Owens quoted Benjamin Netanyahu's father's original Polish name. We should just rethink our entire strategy. Nobody's doing that, all right? All right? No one's doing that, okay? Your mom is hot 14 is who's doing that, okay? Not anybody who's serious or matters. Okay. The problem is that your mom is hot 14's clicks count every bit as much as the people who matters, which is why people like Candace placate to people like that, because their clicks count too. So there's two other major reasons why. One group of people sees everything as the 80s or World War II, and another group of people sees everything as Iraq. And there is plenty of historical reasons for those to be your linchpins and points of reference in how you engage past precedent, which is why there's a lot of fervent debate, because there's evidence for both of these arguments. Okay? Here is what I think we have to do here. As I think we need to purge some elements from our coalition, people that have just demonstrated they're just not serious people. And why am I talking again about Candace Owens? People that just are clearly not serious people, just grifters incarnate, all right? But again, we're talking about a very small group of people. The dumbest thing to do would be to lump everybody that has skepticisms about this into that group. That is exactly how we're going to dissolve our coalition, and we won't win another national election moving forward. And we'll have taken this last win and wasted it. Because it's not simple. I saw, for example, Bibi Netanyahu put out something this morning. Thousands of years ago, Cyrus the Great freed the Jews. Now it is time for the Jews to return the favor and to help free the Persians. I love that message. That gets me in the feels. That, I'm a biblical worldview guy, all right? So I love the serendipity of that, okay? But we're on day what now? 5 of this, right? Day 5. Been any kind of evidence outside of a grandson of the Shah none of us knew was alive 72 hours ago, putting out something on X, okay? To essentially the Iranian, whatever the Iranian version is of Candace Owens, that's who he represents, okay? So he's putting it out to flies, okay? With the exception of that, has anybody seen anything on the ground at all to indicate that the Iranian people are willing, capable, eager, desirous to take advantage of this moment and move on from the mullahs? Are we seeing anything like that whatsoever? And the answer is no. Because you know what would happen if we did? It would be all Fox News is talking about right now. And Lindsey Graham would be on every show. So the fact that that's not what they're talking about, and that's not what Lindsey's talking about, would tell you what? It ain't happening. And this is why people are skittish. Do I want the United States? Because here's the thing. If those two pollsters called me, as best as I could yesterday, when we had this conversation, I got such great feedback from you guys too that really appreciated how we tried to feature these perspectives and then let the other perspectives comment on those perspectives. Thank you guys. We were really trying to elevate the conversation. So as much as I could, I divorced myself from it to try to be as objective as I can. I'm a human being. I'm a sinner. I can't be totally objective, but I did the best I could in that moment. But let me inject my opinion now. All right. If a pollster called me and said, Steve, do you want the United States involved on the ground in a protracted war for regime change in Iran? What do you think my answer is?
Hell no.
No. Hell no. Exactly. Well, my first question would be, is there a hell no category? Can I answer hell no? Is that one of your options? No? Okay. Now, another pollster calls me and says, Steve, should the United States permit for 1 nanosecond Iran to have a nuclear weapon? What's my answer?
No.
The same exact answer. Is there a hell no category? All right. So here's the problem. How do you thread the needle to do one without the other? I've thought about it quite a bit, and I've prayed about it, and here's my answer. I don't know. I don't know. And anybody, by the way, who's telling you they do, and they're not involved in the inner sanctum of White House foreign policy or the DOD is lying to you. We don't know. There isn't a precedent for this. It does not exist. So we're going to find out. Like 5 days ago, to be fair to Bibi Netanyahu, 5 days ago, none of us, who would have predicted, you know what, I think that Israel could probably do more damage to the Iranian high command with a preemptive strike in 3 days than Putin was able to do to Zelensky in Kiev in 3 years. Who would have predicted that without being on a serious bump of cocaine? Or maybe or got their APAC check in the mail, okay? No one else was predicting that. Would have predicted that in their right mind, yet we just watched that happen. That's going on as we speak, right? Yeah. Things happen in this world. It is a fallen world. We don't have certainty all of the time. And sometimes, in fact, more times than we care to admit to one another, you know what the answer is? I don't know. And there have been times that Trump's pragmatism has frustrated me, like on abortion language, for example. This is one of those times that, frankly, though, I think someone that is not dogmatic and extremely pragmatic and is just simply going to look at this as, is this working? Keep doing it. If it's not, cut it out. I think that this moment right now, by the providence of God, calls for that worldview. I do. I would be very nervous if someone who had a dogma one way or the other, a narrative that they believed in, that they got elected on, and that they needed to prove was true. Hey, hey, you know, or what was the line that Sean Davis had yesterday in the hour? Real neocon conservatism hasn't been tried yet. Okay, real nation building hasn't been tried yet. Real isolationism hasn't been tried yet. All right, we can't afford any of those narratives. We live in an uncertain world. I don't want to be involved in a regime change war in Iran. I also don't want a nation that has killed how many Americans have been complicit in the murder of how many others for 40 years to suddenly have a weapon of mass destruction when they've already demonstrated they like killing our people. You know what I'm saying?
Rock, meat, hard place.
Yes. And so you know what? You want to be the president, brother? Welcome to the show. And in this case, I'm going to trust the providence of God. We have an utter pragmatist making these decisions. And at times, that has been a frustration to me. That's why, and I've expressed those frustrations. That's why I'm probably never getting the Mar-a-Lago invite. But in this case, I got to tell you, I'm on my knees thanking God that he's in the White House right now, because I think we need someone that just is going to look at this straight up as, is business booming or not? Keep doing it. Not working? Cut it out and stop. Because I don't think this is not a time for narratives. This is a time for real, sober-minded, is this going to work or not? Because we're attempting to thread a needle that's literally never been attempted before, like in the history of humanity. We're going to try to do it right now. Which brings me to what I want to say about the Cruz and Tucker conversation, or at least what they have shown of it to us thus far. In a moment. Stay tuned. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, we're brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. And we have been telling you about them for years because they have been, for years now, they've been on the cutting edge of the very parallel economy we have long desired that we're now trying to accomplish. They're one of the leaders, and they're in a field within an industry that we pretty much all need to access to thrive in modern America today. That's our mobile phone. So you might be saying, listen, I've heard the messages. I know you love them. They've got a U.S.-based customer service team, Steve. I know you've talked about the fact you've seen firsthand how they reinvest the profits we give them back into being prophetic for the values we share. That's great, but I'm locked into all these contracts, man, so I'm kind of stuck. Well, you know what? That may not be the case. Patriot Mobile offers up to a $500 contract buyout per device. All right, to get you out from underneath the thumb of the communist corporation you're doing business with and to do business with them right now instead. To get you started, they'll also give you a free month of service with the offer code Steve. All right, so go to the website. Might as well find out if you can get out from underneath that deal or not. PatriotMobile.com/Steve. Make the switch today. PatriotMobile.com/Steve. And use the offer code Steve to get started with a free month of service as well. Keep your phone, upgrade your phone, keep your number, switch your number. They'll customize it for you, your family, your needs. PatriotMobile.com/Steve. That's PatriotMobile.com/Steve. All right, so in one of the handful of private text threads I'm in with people around the country, a lot of times there would be names you guys would know or want to. And it's interesting, man, because I've got, within these threads, you know, I've got friends everywhere. Okay, so, I mean, I've got friends and people I respect that you would respect, tired of essentially what they see as, and they're not anti-Semites, they're just tired of an overt amount of Israeli influence over U.S. foreign policy. I think that's a legitimate debate to have, and we should have it. I think after the failures of the military adventurism of the first quarter century of this century, we should be having almost every single conversation that's like legitimate. Okay. Secondly, I've got people also like, you know, sending me like insider maneuvers of the Israeli Defense Force. You know, so I'm hearing it and seeing it from both sides. Really smart people. You know, and I think that really helped to equip us for what I'm proud we were able to pull off during the second hour yesterday. And so in one of these private text threads last night, someone in the thread sends in a promo. Here we go. And it's a promo, Tucker Carlson saying, hey, me, Senator Ted Cruz, 2 hours tomorrow. And I'm like, that Thor meme when Hulk shows up? Yes! I'm like, now this, okay, this is, because I got to, listen, I love Tucker. Okay? But I got to tell you, man, since he left Fox, it feels like he was the Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson at Fox. And he has been post Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson since he left. All over the place. Now, you guys know, am I a great fan of Fox News?
No.
Has anybody other than Tucker booked me on Fox News in the last 10 years? No. Okay? So, but sometimes, man, Hall and Oates need one another. All right? Now they're suing the hell out of each other now. Did you see that?
Yes.
Just depresses me every time when I'm listening to the 80 station, a whole Hall and Oates song comes on. And I start humming along or singing along. Wait a minute, these guys are trying to sue the pants off each other right now as we speak. All right? But Hall and Oates need each other, man. Okay? And the fact that he knew there was someone in a corner office that would ask him questions he didn't want to have to answer, even though one-on-one debate, Tucker Carlson, Rupert Murdoch, Steve Deace is on whose side? Probably 99.999% unanswered, without even knowing what the topic is. I'm on Team Tucker. Fair?
Tucker.
But it's still good to know somewhere there's accountability. Even if the accountability is wrong, flawed, and bad, as human beings, we need accountability. We need it. Otherwise, it's in the springtime, when kings went off to war, David stayed behind. What's the next verse? You guys remember? And over yonder, despite the fact he had 4,000 wives and 7,500 sex slaves, here was one more hot chick named Bathsheba he just had to have. And the rest, as they say, is infamy, right? Yeah, that's what happens after. We all need some accountability, man. Even if your boss sucks, it's better than having a rudderless ship. All right? And I think they brought out the best programming Fox News has done in the history of its program was his show. And the best he's ever done since in his career is what he did on that channel. If you watch Tucker on Fox and seen what he's done since Fox and what he did before Fox, one of these things is not like the other. It's tight, it's brilliant, it's intellectual, it's honest. Now we're just kind of meandering. So last year I watched him just spend all kinds of political capital reconstructing Winston Churchill for reasons. I have no idea what that accomplished. Okay. Now you're in danger of looking like you're a simp for Iran. So why not do what you did on your TV show? Bring people on from different persuasions and challenge them all. I don't have a problem with asking Marty Maid his nuanced views of Hitler. My problem is asking Marty Maid no questions that would challenge his nuanced views on Hitler. You see what I'm saying? I have no problem with question everything. I don't. My problem is let's make people, though, show their work where they got their answers. I mean, I don't know why we take Marty Maid's word for it any more than we would take the CDC's and Rochelle Walensky's. Do you know why?
No.
Why? If we're not going to take Rochelle Walensky at face value on whether masks works, do you know why we're going to take Marty Maid face value on whether or not Hitler was just misunderstood? How about we ask some questions so we actually know what people's answers really are? So when I saw Tucker saying, "Here comes Ted Cruz," I'm thinking, now that's what we need right there. Two of the smartest men I've met in this industry, toe to toe for 2 hours, mano y mano, let it rip. First promo clip gets released about 30 minutes later. Do you know the population of Iran? You talk to a senator for 2 hours and your gotcha clip is that? That's the gotcha clip? That? Ted's using that to his advantage, by the way. Now, listen, I saw Rafael Cruz last week in Dallas. First time I've talked to Rafael in at least 3 or 4 years. I think I've had 2 conversations with my old boss since he came to the premiere for Nefarious in April of 23. I don't know any members of his current staff. I'm not on the inside with Ted Cruz, okay? So this isn't personal to me. In fact, I've had in the last 2 years, I've had far more personal interactions with Tucker Carlson than I have Ted Cruz, and that's the truth. It's more likely that Tucker will return my text right now than Ted will. That's a fact. So this is not any sort of bias or anything of a past personal relationship. But Ted is using that clip to his advantage. It makes Tucker look sophomoric. Ted is all over the media right now, looking like he's the loyal soldier to Trump while Tucker's out there, let's do bar trivia night. It's silly. We got to be better than that. That's your lead clip. Now, here's the thing. About a half an hour ago, right as we were coming on the air, Tucker released another promo clip. Now, this is the debate that needs to be had. This is the gotcha question that needs to be asked. Okay? Tucker wanted to know, essentially, what role Ted's view of Bible prophecy plays into his views of Israel and foreign policy. Now that's the question we should have led with. Now we're having a conversation. Because let me tell you, going back to what I just said a few minutes ago, that would make me nervous. This is the most thankful for Trump's hardcore pragmatism I've been in the decade that he has been essentially the face of my side. He's been my side's general. Because right now, we don't need any preconceived notions other than we cannot get involved in another protracted regime change war. The demographics, it's like 95% Shia in Iran. Almost all of the most oppressive Islamist cultures in the world are Shia. We have no idea what will come after the mullahs. Are the mullahs bad?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know what will come after the mullahs? Nope. We have no clue. I can promise you, though, a 95% Shia culture is not one that is anxious to go back to those clips you're seeing on X, okay, of Iranian women wearing swimsuits in the 70s. We ain't going back to that. Whether the mullahs are in charge or not, that ain't happening in a Shia culture, I can promise you that. Okay? We have no clue. We don't know. And now I applaud Tucker for going down that road. We do need to have that debate. Because I do say, and this is now where I'm going to offend friends of mine, but I do think we need to be real sure, guys, real sure that your view of Bible prophecy, that by and large was not mainstreamed into the Christian church until a few hundred years ago. And that's being kind. That's being kind. Because frankly, this has really exploded since 1948. Now, those who had that view are going to say that's precisely evidence that it's the right view. And you might be right. I don't know. But neither do you. Are we really going to gamble our entire way of life that this particular view of Bible prophecy is correct? That, I'm going to tell you, man, that is not a gamble I'm willing to make. Not with a son who just turned 18 and registered for selective service. Not with a son-in-law who just saw 80% of his unit ship out to Iraq for a year. No. I'm not willing to gamble on that. I'm not. I'm going to need more than that. And this is the conversation that Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson need to be having. Not, and Aaron, brilliant to completely pan that and ridicule that for the ridiculous silliness that it was. You gave it exactly what it deserved. All right? Raspberries. We have to be better than that. We cannot have the two of the smartest minds on our side who disagree on this come together and then do, bar night trivia. It's got to be better than that. Like, now that question that Tucker asked, that's what we need to have conversations about. And I think people are entitled to know how much people's views of a particular view of Bible prophecy drive someone's policies. How can I not say that? I'm the Biblical Worldview Show. I show you guys every single day why my belief in what the only perfect thing on the earth, the Word of God, has to say is why I believe that about that particular thing, right? So it's only fair that I would apply that standard across the line. And I do think people deserve to know. Are we sure D.L. Moody was right? Are we sure Hal Lindsey was right? Are we sure the Plymouth Brethren were right? They might be. There have been, Hannibal could not conquer Rome. Augustine did. So yeah. There are definitely times to pursue theology. In fact, in our times, we need to do it more. But I do think if you're going to use your theology as the reason why you believe in doing something, your theology should be put up to be vetted then and critiqued. And Tucker is right to ask about that. And he's probably one of only a handful of people with a platform in America who matters, who's equipped to even come close to having that conversation. And that's way better than rando bar night trivia. And frankly, I would hope someone as smart as my former boss, Ted Cruz, has reasons for why he believes what he does about what role we ought to play here beyond a particular view of Bible eschatology. Yes. That a lot of great Bible figures don't agree with you on that even, okay? Like, you're gonna get every major Orthodox Christian leader, Greek, Protestant, evangelical, Catholic, they're all going to come together on whether to say babies or not, right? What the definition of marriage is, right? The fundamentals of civilization, right? We're all going to come together on that. On this stuff, there's a wide swath of disagreement. So to apply that broadly as what the policy of a nation should be, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying prepare to be scrutinized, and it deserves to be. Because these are decisions that are going to impact millions of lives. So we better be sure. That's why I'm glad right now, gentlemen, the guy that's going to make the ultimate shot call here doesn't care about any of that. And he's just a hardcore pragmatist, and all he cares about is, does it look like we're winning? Keep doing it. Does it look like it's not going well? Stop that. Because I think right now, that's as far as our dogmas should go when it comes to interacting with this region of the world in particular. Your thoughts?
If you're a policymaker, you need to be nimble. Ted Cruz needs to be nimble. He needs to be able to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. He needs to be able to say, hey, this is my perspective about theology, but here is an America First geopolitical argument for whatever my position is that maybe you could understand if you come from a different perspective. You need to be able to articulate and argue from those perspectives as well. And I saw the clip, so I'm going to reserve any overall judgments for Cruz from later on, but it looked from the clip that he was only coming from his own bias, from his own. And that's the same thing goes for Bibi Netanyahu the other day. I understand he was talking about, or maybe addressing the Tucker Carlsons of the world, but he came out and he said, I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. Today it's Tel Aviv. Tomorrow it's New York. I'm sorry, man. Please connect the dots a little bit more than that. I understand. I can understand where you're coming from, but to me, that's just a purveyor of urgency, and you're not actually articulating an argument there. And I understand he's got a lot of stuff going on, but this is what I'm talking about. You have to be able to argue from different perspectives, kind of the same outcome. You have to be aware of that, because I'm telling you, well, there's going to be a great let me tease this. There's going to be a great buy, seller, hold suggestion or submission about this that we'll get to in the next segment.
Broadly speaking, and I said this a long time ago when Tucker first got out of Fox and started behaving the way Steve described. And I really think that Tucker, from a very young age and kind of playing within these boundaries that I know Steve was very much frustrated by as well and rejected them, but in a different way before Tucker did. But Tucker basically went George Costanza. And he's like opposite. Like, I'm unemployed and I live with my parents. And the woman's like, who are you? He just decided I'm going to look under every rock, no matter what it is. So even if it's the Tate brothers. And I think when he said for the first time in his adult life, he was actually reading the Bible. He said that when he was here in Des Moines, Steve. Mm-hmm. I think the people he was surrounded by, the default, the norm, perhaps that he was around in the past, were Zionist in their predispositions. So that broader default that Tucker found himself in is like going to the opposite way. I think that's what you're seeing here now, and it leads him to act like he does. I think there's a lot of psychology going on here with Tucker.
The way that unfolded with Cruz and Carlson and the population of Iran, that unfolded in a sophomoric way, but I can understand after decades of neocon foreign policy, just flippant, hey, we're gonna do regime change. I can understand how if you want to ask a Lindsey Graham of the world, a Mitch McConnell of the world, hey, can you just name basic facts about these human beings that we're going to probably displace for the rest of their lives? I understand where that question is coming from. It just came off in a sophomoric way.
Here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzen, Aaron McIntire, and all of you. Let us all know what you think, though hopefully not all at once, about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then, if you wouldn't mind, if you are a partaker of the podcast, thank you, please leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform that you prefer. Thanks to all of you that have done that. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow, and that makes it sure that every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed there every single time. And by the way, the last 2 episodes we have done are back-to-back, the highest rated back-to-back episodes. We've had episodes ranked higher than the 2 episodes, but not in back-to-back days, as high as those 2 episodes were. Those are the highest back-to-back episodes we've ever had in the history of the show on Apple and iTunes. So, and since that's the number one way that you guys access our show is via Apple iTunes, we greatly appreciate it. So thank you guys very much. And you know what? We are especially honored that it came at a time that, we're not above poking fun. We spent an entire month on Marxist madness during brackets. So, we will do Chuckle Hut too. We like to laugh as well. But the last 2 days, as much as possible, we have really tried to elevate the debate over what is a really serious moment in the history of the world, and also really for the future trajectory of our own coalition here. And so for those to be the 2 days that have really helped to see the trend line of the show surge on Apple in correspondence to our best attempt to have as much serious conversation as we can. That means a lot to me personally, you guys. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. I also appreciate how much you guys let our Amazon rank explode yesterday. We are really close to getting into the top 100 of LGBTQ FU books nationwide, which would then compel Amazon to list us as an LGBTQ FU bestseller.
You almost did it.
Almost, but we got to get there. The circle will be complete. All right, that might be the last thing on my life link. It's possible God will just call me home at that point and just say, all right, mission accomplished. All right.
Gandalf voice, the board is set.
Yes.
The pieces are moving.
Yes. So we need you guys now to storm the gates of Mordor for us and keep it going.
Yes.
All right. So please, again, I'm not going to get rich off of this, man. I'm going to make $3 a book. All right. So to quote the Heath Ledger's Joker, it's not about the money. It's about sending the message. All right. It's about sending a message.
Also coattails. Right? So the money's cool.
I want to send the message, okay? I want Richie Meets the Rainbow in the heart of Pride Month to be a LGBTQ FU bestseller. We're almost there. Give us that final push, please. Go to Amazon, look for Richie, R-I-C-H-I-E. Look for Richie Meets the Rainbow, R-I-C-H-I-E at Amazon.com. And thanks to you guys for the big jump we took yesterday as well. And thanks to our friends over at Beam. If you are struggling to get a good night's sleep, well, here's a company that has the same values that you do, and they make a cool cocoa that isn't packed with carbs and sugar, but packed with the magnesium, melatonin, and other natural ingredients you need to get the best night's sleep you can. It's called the Dream Powder, founded here in America and run by people who share your America First values. It's a healthy nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients to improve your sleep. I have used this quite a few times over the last several months since they came on board. And my biggest complaint, man, is I don't know what to do anymore if I don't have to get up to pee during the middle of the night. And I get into such a deep sleep with this thing that I don't get up to pee. And then it feels like the night just went by too fast. Are you doing that now? Where you can kind of tell where you're at in your nighttime sleep, and when you have to get up to pee, and you look at the clock, okay, I got another 2 or 3 hours.
Dragged into your nighttime nocturnal pee habit conversation.
All right. I wasn't trying to make it weird. You just did, though. You just did.
I just did.
Dropping the term nocturnal and everything else, you just made it weird. All right. Anywho, all right. Where were we?
Todd, that was a time when you could have said, I'm Catholic.
Yes. Yes. All right. Yes. Anyway, if I have one complaint about this product, it's that since when I don't get up to pee and I just sleep all the way through the night through, it feels like that it went by too fast almost. So it's a fantastic product. Lights out in minutes, and you're going to love it. If you want to try it now, Beam is giving you guys the ultimate Patriot discount up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder. Comes in several different flavors. I do the chocolate peanut butter. But you can choose yours at shopbeam.com/Steve. Beam as in beam in your eye. Laser beam. Shopbeam.com/Steve. Use the code Steve at checkout to get up to 40% off. Sleep better, wake up stronger, show up ready for your values, your faith, your family the next day. All right. Shopbeam.com/Steve. Code Steve at checkout for up to 40% off at shopbeam.com/Steve. All right. Here we go. Time for some buy, sell, or hold. We're going to get through as many of these as we can. What remains will be given to our subscribers at Blaze TV after the show when we record the overtime for you at blazetv.com/Deace. Aaron has the submissions, none of which Todd and I have seen. We're going to react to them in real time with the rest of you guys. With a buy and with a sell, we are permitted to hold, but if at any point in time, all right, you use your hold, then you have emasculated yourself, you have betrayed the dude code, and you will be punished and punished severely. And the punishment you will receive for using your hold today is you will be tied up in a chair with your eyebrows taped open, your eyelids, I should say, taped open, and forced to watch on a never-ending loop Ring camera footage from Lindsey Graham's house. And you see whatever it was he did the first time he saw the Israeli missile hit Tehran. Todd?
For a second there, I thought it was going to be one of the kinder and gentler ones. But then you turn the Ring camera into his own place, and now it's
so
the
the privacy of his own home. How did Lindsey Graham react in the privacy of his own DC brownstone? No. The minute of impact, and the first Israeli missile landed in Tehran.
Zero chance. Negative integers.
You will be forced, Clockwork Orange style. No. You will watch. You will watch, and you'll watch it all.
I will not.
You will gaze upon the beast and marvel at it. Yes.
I have a critical update here that I'm sure our entire audience, especially the two men in this room, have been waiting with bated breath for, as to whether Iran is in BRICS. And the update is that I am a moron. They are in BRICS. Right. They're just not the I in BRICS. I was trying to save Steve, but instead, I'm a moron. Let's start with buy, sell, or hold. Alexander Rogers is up next first. Israel is pushing for war with Iran now, not because of weapons of mass destruction that we have no real evidence exists, but because they see their window of American support is closing with the coming end to the age of the boomer.
I would not word it this way, but I will buy that. I think that is a factor that I think that if the point of if the meta point you're making is Israel senses there's a window of opportunity here that may not exist into perpetuity, I will buy. We're getting into disagreement then is what is the motivation of that window, right? Because different people, Alexander's perspective would define that moment this way. If we put the Wonder Woman of Lasso of Truth around Benjamin Netanyahu, he would probably say, I've had several health scares, almost died. I've had numerous, corruption scandals I've had to overcome. This is my last thing. I'm on a mission from God here to remove the Iranian threat once and for all. I mean, if you asked different people how to define that the moment is now, they would all have their own definitions of what that is. But they would be, in the spirit of what you're saying the same thing. Absolutely, that matters more than intel. 100%. I don't disagree with that at all. And so since I think that's the spirit of what you're tapping into, Alexander, I will buy, even if I might word it differently and other people would put it differently in terms of what the impetus for that moment is.
I will also buy with absolute, and that means nothing, at least in terms of my answer of whether doing so is right or wrong. Just as one of multiple variables, I agree that this is part of the consideration.
I think this also plays, by the way, into Trump. This goes to what I said last hour. If the initial Israeli strike was not as devastating and as effective as it turned out to be, if it had undue civilian casualties that the rest of the world was bemoaning the next day, I can promise you at no point in the ensuing 72 hours would Donald Trump be tweeting out unconditional surrender. His messaging would have been completely different. All right. So, yeah, there's a lot of things here that are going on that I think are conditional. And the condition isn't necessarily whatever they think the current status of Iran's current weapons program happens to be.
Right.
Okay.
Next, we go to Uncontexted Days 2 Electric Boogaloo, another rendition of Richie Meets the Rainbow. Richie Meets Disney, Lesbians in Space edition. We've gender and race swapped Richie.
I love it. Lesbians in Space! Yep.
Yes. Absolutely.
Most expensive television flop in the history of the medium was Lesbians in Space. It's estimated Disney spent at least $100 million on that thing.
This is how powerful.
And took an absolute bath on it. Yeah.
Toy lightsabers are powerful, though.
Chris Goebel says, top 10 end of the world movies since 2000 in no particular order.
This seems appropriately timed.
Since 2000. A Quiet Place.
Great movie. Bye.
I still need to watch that.
I agree. A great movie.
The Road.
That sounds like I have seen it.
It's Cormac McCarthy.
Okay.
It is.
The guy who played Aragorn is in it?
Yeah.
All right. I haven't seen it. I don't remember much of it. I remember thinking, though, it was really good.
It is brutal.
Okay.
It is brutal. But it's good.
All right. Then I'll go with a buy. Okay.
The Book of Eli.
One of the most underrated movies so far of the 21st century. Absolute greatness. Buy. Good pull.
Zombieland.
I'm just zombied out, man.
Never seen Zombieland.
I'm just zombied out. You know, I think I probably liked it at the time, but I am just zombied out. So,
Interstellar.
So here's the thing. I think Interstellar is a very good movie. I don't think it's like Ben Shapiro's, all-time greatest transcendent film experience, though, either. Okay? So based on expectations, I would sell, but based on it as a standalone product, I would buy. Does that make sense? So I'll buy. It's a very good movie.
I'll buy. Okay? I liked it,
but I don't think it's anything close to Christopher Nolan's best film.
I liked it more than a lot of the critics, and I've been on the other end. I mean, Nolan is brilliant, but I've been like a Dunkirk. I thought he did not achieve what.
I agree. Dunkirk was a miss, and then what was that? Tenet.
Yeah. Well,
Tenet was just. Yeah. I mean,
at least he flat out just said it's. Don't try to make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. Just this was like his MC Escher work or something like that. Okay. I don't know, but.
Earlier this year, I watched Interstellar when I was sick with norovirus, kind of drifting in and out of sleep. And I don't know if it was the sickness that caused me, but it does seem more magical than science fiction. It's a little weird upon second, third watch. I still maintain the audio mixing in that movie is incredible, and the soundtrack. Edge of Tomorrow is next.
And another one of the most underrated movies in the 21st century. That's a great movie. Yeah.
WALL-E.
WALL-E's a fantastic movie.
WALL-E is maybe the most prophetic animated film of our era. It's more than it's prophecy. I'll buy.
I Am Legend.
Very good.
Very good. I'll buy.
Snowpiercer.
That's the train one with Chris Evans, right? Is that right?
So. Yep.
It's
the train one. I don't know if Chris Evans.
I don't think that's a top 10 since 2000, but I didn't dislike it or anything like that.
All right, I'll buy it. I don't know if it belongs that high, but I'll buy it.
Mad Max Fury Road. Did you watch any of the Mad Max movies?
I watched the old ones with Mel Gibson. I tried to watch this. I couldn't get into it.
Yeah, I never saw it.
And then they did a sequel to Girl Boss, and you guys know I'm out on Girl Boss, man. And I was never that guy. Okay, you know how much I love the Wonder Woman movie, right? I love this idea. Well, we need strong female characters, and you and I grew up with Princess Leia grabbing the gun from Han Solo and saying, "Hey, do what you're told," as if this was like something brand new. Okay, but the whole girl boss phenomenon is just, I'm out on it. So.
All right, next we go to Deace and Memes, who actually has a serious submission this time.
Whoa.
People mockingly saying Iran has been close to nukes for 30 years. Meaning people say, hey, this is always the same story. They've been close to 2 weeks away from a nuke for the last 30 years. Deace and Memes says they fail to recognize or realize that they've only been close and not achieved because they keep getting stopped. The previous stoppages were more minor. This appears to be much more major in impact.
I will buy, but here's the thing. You just did a better job of answering that question than the vast majority of our elected officials and corporate media do when these questions get asked, which is what makes people suspicious.
See, I'm a hold on this question because I do agree that for my entire life they've been X number of very short amounts of time away from getting a nuke. Do I believe they're keep getting closer to getting a nuke and have been stopped on a few occasions? Yes, but I also don't think that they are that far behind from getting a nuke either. So I'm kind of a hold on this one. I do think there's been a lot over the last 20 to 30 years of urgency, manipulation, but at the same time, it doesn't change the fact that Iran has been trying to get a nuclear weapon. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I think two things can be true at the same time.
We're just in an era, though, where people are struggling to find one thing that is true, let alone accepting multiple.
Yes.
Like this Dave Smith guy we talked about yesterday. So he did this thing with Douglas Murray. I don't know much about Doug Murray. Haven't followed a lot of his work. Did this debate with Douglas Murray on Joe Rogan. Okay. Mm-hmm. In fact, I probably know more about Dave Smith's thoughts because I saw him a lot in my feed, pushing back on the same COVID stuff that I did. I don't know a lot about Douglas Murray. All right. So they did this debate, and the whole thing was Doug Murray basically says we need gatekeepers against people like Dave Smith. All right. Fine. Okay. So Rob Schneider, SNL, alum, great. Responds to something Dave Smith says and says, listen, I don't agree with Dave on this, but, he's really a smart guy, has a perspective that should be, you probably saw that tweet. It went viral the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see how Dave Smith responded?
Yeah.
I told Rob Schneider to shut the F up.
No, I didn't see that, really.
You don't know what you're talking about, and you don't get to speak on this. And so someone replied to him and said, didn't you just do a whole debate with Douglas Murray about how there shouldn't be gatekeepers? And his response was, you're right, but, I'm actually qualified to be one. See, this is what I was saying about Candace Owens last hour. All right, so you spent 5 years whining that people were calling you fake black because you were doing Blexit and everything else, but now you're in the position to determine who's a real Jew. You see what I'm saying? This is not much different than racism bad unless it's affirmative action and it's against whites, then it's totes okay. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we're not globalists. We shouldn't care at all what goes on in another country. But if you don't know the exact population of rando Middle Eastern nation, then you're not doing your job. Which is it? There's no plumb line. This is Book of Judges.
Correct. Everyone is doing what is right
Correct.
in their own eyes.
Correct. Yes.
Oh. Cows with Guns is next. The fact that we haven't heard any press about what Linda McMahon is doing at the Department of Education is a bad sign for the likelihood of the department being dismantled.
Man,
buy.
I mean, I guess I'll just buy as a default. It also could just be we've got 5 other existential things happening right now in the world, you know? So, you know what? For that reason, I'll sell to give her the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. But this is a legit question to ask. I mean, but I've not had it on my frame of thought either. Where are we at with that? Because of all the other stuff we're talking about right now too. So since it wasn't on my frame of thought, to be fair to her, I'll sell. But it's a legit question to ask.
I'll buy. I mean, I think there's a relatively easy answer, certainly relative to other issues. I think and it might be in the big beautiful bill for all I know, because who knows. But you block grant the federal funding out. You give it a window so they have time to prepare, 5 years or whatever than that. You just give it to the states and you shut that department down.
Next, Auburn Tiger says now that Steve has gotten into such great shape, he will be invited to his CPAC. Auburn says, notice I didn't say invited to speak at CPAC.
But he's just the eye candy now?
Okay.
What are we doing?
Listen, there's plenty of eye candy at CPAC if you want, guys, but it ain't middle-aged dudes who downgraded from pudgy to dad bod, all right? I mean, if you're looking for a home wrecker to hire for your staff, okay, or more likely, given what I hear is going on within the DC GOP, you just like having sex with guys. You just like gay sex with guys.
I didn't get it.
There is plenty of eye candy there.
Now it's just a Lindsey Graham question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's dark, man. That's dark.
It is dark.
So is that a buy or sell, Todd?
Probably a buy then. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If it's dark, we're gonna buy probably.
Sure.
Yeah.
James Miller says the Shah will be back in power in Iran before July 4th.
So,
I will sell it. I can't make a definitive statement about anything. And by the way, the fact we can't is exactly why we need someone who's a hardened pragmatist to be making these decisions on behalf of the American people right now. Someone that is not devoted to a particular narrative other than, is this working out for our best interest at this particular point in time? That is exactly what we need right now. Because you can see the two narratives that are arguing with each other have holes in their own logic bases, even amongst some of the smartest people beholden to their narratives, cannot answer. Okay? And, I mean, Tucker, frankly, cannot really answer for you. I've looked, he can't. What does he want to do instead? I mean, sometimes it sounds like Tucker says we should, why don't we pass war control? Have we thought about this? Just pass war control? And we're banning war. All right. Enemy shows up. We just imported 20 million people over the border, and 10,000 of them are Wahhabists, and they're blowing up our buildings on behalf of Yemen. Well, we banned war. Didn't they read the sign? We banned war, guys. We passed a bill. We banned war. We're doing war control. War has been banned. You know what I'm saying? I can't find out what he wants instead. On the other hand, Ted's got to have better arguments, man, than Genesis 12:3. Okay? Got to have better arguments than that. And now, it's not really the fault of either side that they don't have better arguments than this, because our entire foreign policy epistemology has collapsed in just the last few years. And we're in the process right now of figuring out what we're going to believe and think is true moving forward. That will be a messy process, and it will take time. And we don't know yet which side's going to win this argument, which is why, you know what we need right now? Someone who doesn't care about that. And all they care about is, rent, is it working? My approval numbers going up? American people love it? Are we killing more of the bad guys? Are they killing more of us? Right? That's all Trump is doing, man. All Trump is doing is just looking at a balance sheet. Business is booming, keep doing it. Business in decline, who's got to get fired? That's exactly what we need right now, while the ideologues in our camps hash this out and figure out what we're going to think and believe about this moving forward.
Next, Colton O'Halloran says the United States is facing massive illegal immigration issues, civil unrest, extreme debt and inflation, the deterioration of the family unit, and government corruption. We have no business policing the world. Helping other countries is the luxury of a nation that has its crap together.
I can't argue with any of that. Now, you are left, though, with the scenario of what happens when people want to hurt, when people don't say, hey, we'll give you some time to fix your social contagions and maladies. We were going to attack you guys, but since it's clear you guys have a lot of issues, we're just going to give you time to fix those. That's not how the world works either, right? Okay? So as long as you're willing to account for that, then this is my default system, okay? I'm here. But I also have to live in the world as it is, not as I want it to be. And so I also have to recognize over here there are elements of evil in this world that are not just going to give us a quiet time to get contemplative and figure our stuff out. That's not how this world works either, all right? So you've got to be ambidextrous. You've got to be flexible. Have your head on a swivel. You cannot be dogmatic, okay? The guy hosting one of the most listened to biblical worldview shows in America is saying, don't be dogmatic. Take that very seriously. Because all I've been doing on this show for the last 10 plus years is dogmas, okay? So I'm telling you, this is not a time to be dogmatic. Now, that is a good default setting, and that is a setting, which means events may occur where you may have to change your settings, right? Okay? So it's a default, but not a permanent. So as long as we agree that's a default setting and not a permanent setting, because I do think there are people in Team Tucker that think that can be a permanent setting, and I just don't believe that's how the world operates. Any more than I think that there is some layer of 3 million Iranians that are just waiting to come above ground now and throw out the mullahs. I don't believe that from Team Levin either. Okay, so as long as we admit it's a setting and not a permanent place, I buy.
I buy this as well, and I said as much earlier this week. It's the other side of a coin. Listen, do I believe the West should be able to defend itself and hit back hard and not always be the one having to just accept the fact everybody else is a violent lunatic and we never get to ultimately settle the score in a way that is just and stops it? I think that's nonsense. So yes, should Israel be able to do what it's doing? I fundamentally believe that. But I also believe this. Israel and the United States are not interchangeable parts in this scenario. They live there. They chose to live there and establish that nation. We are over here, and we are not a healthy people. And we are under no inherent obligation to be an interchangeable part with Israel and be up to our necks in this war to the same degree we are in, because of all the reasons you just said. I absolutely agree that you have to be nimble in your thinking and do a lot of both ands.
Devin Fox says Iran's ability to wage war was exaggerated.
I think we have to come to the conclusion Iran's military might exaggerated. Russia's military might exaggerated. I think we have to come to that conclusion. Israel's military might underestimated.
What was the first thing on Friday morning after the attacks went down that I told you, Todd, when I came in here? I said I vastly overestimated Iran's ability to attack. However, I want to throw this out there as well. How much of that is because of what went down Thursday night into Friday?
Well, yes, I do think one feeds into the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think I would, just to be clear, I do fall on the over-exaggeration of Iran's ability, but I do think it was greatly diminished Thursday night into Friday.
I mean, listen, if Israel and Iran do fight this out to like it's the colonial era, hey, we'll see out there in the fields after tea today at noon. Is Iran going to perform a lot better than what just happened? Yeah, a lot better. Okay. But that's the credit also to why I think you also have to realize we've underestimated the Israelis, because they kneecapped them. I mean, they kneecapped them on multiple. I mean, shut down their central bank. I mean, they hit them on every cultural layer you could imagine. Targeted assassinations of key, even civic leaders. They knew this was well plotted, and even better executed. It's the most, at the very least, it's the most impressive military operation, I think, in the world since D-Day. And maybe the most impressive preemptive strike we've seen since Blitzkrieg.
I will buy narrowly, but I want again to stress this is about sustainability. It's only been a week. And Steve, he talks about it all the time. We are political will, and ultimately what this is all about. It's going to have to last more than a week. I don't know how long, but it's going to have to last longer.
Natural Born Texas says nuclear World War III, which would essentially wipe out all life on Earth, goes against biblical prophecy, therefore can't happen. P.S. I'm not in the Tucker wing because I don't believe Iran should be allowed to have nuclear weapons.
I wouldn't say nuclear World War III goes against Bible teaching. If you're saying that's not the way the world ends, then I would buy. But if you're saying that a global conflict involving nuclear weapons, I mean, if you lived 100 years ago and saw what mustard gas, all right, did to just wipe out entire layers of 20-something age boys, all right, on the Marne, okay, or on the Somme, okay, you would have thought, wow, I mean, this looks like the end of the world. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. So I don't think wars of mass devastation that take out entire swaths of the world population go against any Bible teaching at all. I do agree that there is no eschatology that says this is how the world ends, that we can wipe ourselves out. I agree that there is no Bible eschatology that says humanity can wipe itself out. Okay, because that would seem to indicate, therefore, that we are ultimately in charge of our fates down here, and there's not a higher power that is actually orchestrating things to some form of end. But I don't think that's necessarily how you worded it, so I will sell.
Yeah, I'm selling for a lot of the reasons Steve said and more.
Another one for Richie. Richie is tired of meeting all the things.
Yeah,
that's great. Marrying the Ben Affleck thing with Richie.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
There was a movie that came out, I don't know, less than 10 years ago, but it had Ethan Hawke. It was called Boy. Do you remember that? And they actually filmed a kid in a movie every year for they came back together every summer for 7 or 8 years, and you saw him grow.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I never saw it. Was it any good?
It's not great, but I just give a tip of the hat to following that through. It's worth watching. But mate, you could do that with Richie.
Ted Cruz just sent out a meme of him being interviewed by Tucker, and Tucker asking him how many people are on the Death Star.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That was good. Yeah,
one more before the break. This is from an account that's been going viral this morning. Nelson Paul says this vendor at Mooresville, North Carolina Pride event seemed effective based on the amount of response. For those of you listening, it's different millstones with different verses on there. Buy, sell, or hold more.
Buy. That's my side hustle, baby.
I mean, that is chef's kiss, is what that is. You bet. Not all heroes wear capes, but they do own millstones. Indeed. Yes. Back here on the Steve Deace Show, and we are powered by our friends over at Relief Factor. You could be their next success story like Deborah Ann. She had been dealing with severe hip pain for years. It just took her toll on her quality of life day after day. Then she turned to Relief Factor, and after just 4 days, she saw tremendous relief, and she summed it up beautifully when she said, you know what, I just absolutely love how I'm feeling right now. So no guarantees that you're going to be Deborah Ann. All right, but what we can tell you is over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor, and 70% of them had the same reaction that Deborah Ann did. So those are pretty good odds, especially when you find out it cost you just $20 to try the 3-week quick start to see if you don't see a difference in your pain or less with the drug-free supplement that goes after the chronic pain or the inflammation causing the chronic pain there in your joints. ReliefFactor.com is where you can go. Just $20 to try the 3-week quick start today at ReliefFactor.com. Less than $1 a day. ReliefFactor.com. What do you got to lose to see if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less for $1 a day? ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Let's welcome in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. And I want to make sure the audience knows that I warned Daniel ahead of time I was going to do this. All right, that I didn't put him on the spot, okay? Because this is typically not the low-lying kind of fruit that Daniel spends a lot of his time on. All right, typically not how he rolls, okay? But I'm making a personal request for him to respond to something today, precisely because that's not who he is. Let me just say this. Of all the people that I have personal communications with around the country in our industry and movement, probably nobody complains about Jews more than Daniel does. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So Daniel is not reflexive to play the anti-Semite card. Doesn't really get into that whatsoever. Any flirtation of identity politics, even if it would benefit him in any shape or form, he utterly rejects with maximum prejudice. Not his thing. All right, he's a very proud Jew, takes a Sabbath every week. His parents, I think your parents are having a 50th anniversary in Israel as we speak, right? Okay, but it's just not an MO necessarily to how or why he does what he does and sees policy on a daily basis. And that is precisely why I want you to address something here in a moment, Daniel, because this week on our show, we have tried to elevate the debate that these two warring factions on our side are having right now, because our post 9/11 epistemology has rightfully fallen apart because it failed. And so we're having this grand argument right now on the right about what will be moving forward, right? And we've kind of, on our show, we've kind of dubbed it Team Levin, who kind of sees everything through the filter of the Cold War and World War II. And then Team Tucker, who kind of sees everything through the filter of Iraq and the failures of Middle Eastern post 9/11 philosophy. All right.
Or the Jews.
And we're going to get to that part. Okay. We're going to get to that part. All right. Because I think two things have to happen here to keep our coalition together. One is we got to let people ask a lot of contrarian questions after the failures of the last 2 decades. And I think people should be, like, for example, I think it's totally fine for Tucker Carlson to absolutely quiz Ted Cruz on whether he should be using as his dispensational eschatology for how he is making policy decisions that are life and death decisions for people. I think that's a perfectly fair question. And I think we need to leave that open for interpretation. I think we should debate whether AIPAC should be investing in a primary to take out Thomas Massie or not. I think we need to. This is not a time to be closing the Overton window. By and
by
large,
the way, both Tucker and AIPAC support a Palestinian state. So.
Correct. Yeah. So here's the thing, though, that we can't have, because it'll ruin our opportunities to have a serious conversation. When it is very clear that elements are emerging just to use all this as a fig leaf, either for their own sinister motivations or they're just such soulless, absolute grifters, they will say and promulgate anything so that some bot will give them the monetization clicks that is the driving force of what they do. So whether they're Nick Fuentes or they're just so cynical that they'll make money off of promulgating this division, this is the stuff that'll tear our coalition apart. And we have to do the kinds of things the left never did. Take out your trash. All right. And there has to be, there's a trash day every week. Something's got to go on the curb every now and then. Okay. And I'm going to present to you an example of someone that I think needs to go out on the curb. I want Aaron, pop this up. This is from Candace Owens yesterday. They tried to redefine anti-Semitism, criminalize criticism of Israel on college campuses, and most crucially, see the idea that the declaration of Christ as our king amounted to hatred against Jews. Now, just for the three of us for right now, do we disagree? Just pretend Daniel's not here. Do we disagree with anything Candace has said up here so far? No?
Yeah, I mean, proportion is a different conversation, but yes, you could, yes.
In a vacuum, yes.
In a vacuum, no. But let's continue on. All of this was done in preparation for the greater Israel agenda, regarding which they attempted to emotionally manipulate Americans to accept. The conspiracy theorists were right again. It was always about a planned war with Iran and a doomed heretical belief that mass slaughter of women and children is messianic. If you believe the Polish Benjamin Milikowski, now who's Benjamin Milikowski? Bibi Netanyahu's dad. If you believe the Polish Benjamin Milikowski is chosen by God to impart murder, starvation, rape, and blackmail, then may God have mercy on your soul. What she is saying here is that he's not a real Jew. That's what she's saying, which is ironic, because this is a woman who's taken an immense amount of criticism for not being really black. And now she's going to appoint herself who's really Jewish and sincerely Jewish and who's not. Irony. Self-awareness is dead. By the way, Bibi Netanyahu's dad was one of those who lobbied vociferously for the creation of the Jewish state after World War II. Netanyahu is of the synagogue of Satan. Every war he demands in Congress ends with the mass slaughter of Christians. Folks, do you know how many Christians were in Gaza before October 7th? Less than 2,000. Since Hamas since you want to criticize Bibi, here's what you criticize him for. Since he was a chicken hawk for 20 years, And him and his ilk. See, now I'm going to sound like Daniel in our private text threads. Since he was a chicken hawk for 20 years and gave the fake Palestinian people this land, they drove 95% of the Christians out of it. You're being told there's this mass slaughter of Christians in Gaza. There's not a mass of Christians in Gaza, and there haven't been for years. Precisely because the Jews stupidly gave the fake Palestinians their land. Daniel, am I wrong yet?
Steve, I don't know what to say because, again, she doesn't believe her own views. And I think this is important about her and adjacent people. Just to hijack for a moment, and I will respond to that. You have to understand, it's kind of surreal being me this week because I have spent 10 years losing my career. Often this camera, if I don't use it for my own show, it will never go on again from Wednesday to Wednesday on your segment because no one will have me on anymore. I tiptoe around, whether it's immigration, COVID, spending, endorsements, big betrayals. And now, I mean, you want to talk about Trump being bought off. I mean, the Qataris, the AI data centers, I mean, the tech bros, there's a lot of problems. So it's kind of surreal for me coming into this week and suddenly it's kosher to lambast Trump. And I'm like, well, what do I do with this? Well, on the one hand, I applaud some degree of independence, but wait a minute, if you're America first, you're like, screw that thing, I care about fighting China. And then Trump announces 3 minutes ago that he's okay with 500,000 Chinese a year. By the way, one of the things watching Israel is they got into impervious Iran, where if you're caught being an Israeli or a suspected Israeli, you're dead. They got in there over the years to be able to identify their command and control and beat them before the war began. We freaking open the front door hundreds of thousands a year, and we just caught a whole ring in the University of Michigan. And Trump does that. I'm not trying to even beat up on Trump here. I'm just trying to make a point. Silence. Some have muted response. And this is the issue. Man, they go to town. See, you talked about how I never
What you're saying is hundreds of thousands of Chinese college immigrants, and Candace Owens is not losing her mind. But the minute that it looks like we might align with the Jews, suddenly, of course, now we've got a heritage to protect and defend. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone's like using Lindsey Graham as the false flag because, of course, we can't have more precision in IQ than let's do babysitting and social work in a combat zone refereeing Islamic civil wars for 20 years versus breaking threats and leaving like we used to do. Or in this case, Israel does the entire grunt work of the risk on the ground and the air defenses and everything. And now it's just a matter of just not restraining them, really. You could debate within the margins what else, and that's it. And everyone's discussing all these false choices and everything. And look, there's a lot of dimensions to that. We could get to it. But what I can't wrap my arms around is I have spent, since October 7th, Steve, how often have I even talked about Israel? I mean, I could count on one hand.
I guarantee we talked about it more than you have. I guarantee we have.
Yeah. I've been focused on the American heartland. The primaries, the red states, the legislatures protecting red state rural lands from green carbon capture and AI data centers that unfortunately Trump is supporting. You know what's interesting? So everyone talked about Lindsey Graham. Trump now endorsed him for the second time when we have a cadre of candidates lining up. Could we actually utilize this for something? Joni Ernst is like Miss Ukraine. If you want to use the word neocon, manga, like actually do something with it, she would be your gal. Jim Carlin is running. I endorsed him. I don't hear a word. Well, Daniel, maybe they don't know. Well, when you care about something, you make
apparently Candace Owens knows who is and isn't a real Jew. She's not aware of the primaries for the United States Senate. But she is very well aware of Bibi Netanyahu's family tree, apparently.
Yeah, Joni Ernst is for Ukraine, so she's probably a Jew. So why aren't we going after her? But this is the bitter pill for someone like me. And I don't mean from a Jewish angle. I mean from a political angle. I could swallow, so we remake the party full of Ron Pauls, Pat Buchanans, and Thomas Massey's. So you hate Israel for whatever reason, but you're not going to have inflation. You shut down the border for real, and not just the border, but the immigration moratorium, which, by the way, I called for in a book that the manuscript came out before Trump ran for office, and judicial supremacism, and tied the two together before these people knew where the bathroom was. And this week, I'm still focused on that. So you don't care about America first. That ain't what it's about. That's what's clear to me. That now, other people, it's downstream in groupthink and fear. I call it the digital locker room, where it becomes a self-licking ice cream cone. So each person needs to get ahead of each other on this mindless trope. Warmonger. Oh, you want to be a warmonger. I don't want to be a warmonger. And it's like, literally, Steve, here's the irony. Israel is back to work today, and the price of oil is stable. And we have 5 different fights I want to get into domestically, and they won't shut the hell up about Israel.
So your point is,
it's like
the only place where a lot of these Candace Owens level figures, the only place where they really seem to actually follow through on detail with their stated ideology and tropes is when it involves Jews and Israel. That's what you're pointing out. You're pointing out they're nowhere to be found in any of the rest of these fights. But the minute any shofar seems to sound that has anything, any Hebrew symbol attached to it, suddenly they are there to be counted upon and found, and they're found in no other fights anywhere else. That's what you're saying.
I don't know if you remember, you had me on. It was that day or week after the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, and you raised the concern of growing Jew hatred being reflective of something demonic. And I actually disagreed with the premise. I said, you know what? People have been very loving after that. You know, you can't create a trend out of 1 or 2 people. Now, I still fundamentally believe that, by the way, because Twitter doesn't reflect America, although it clearly influences the White House, because JD basically is on Twitter all day jousting with people who have 3 followers. But the point is that when it comes to these people, they do not believe in what they're saying. Everyone else, I think it's a groupthink, and they are rightly, they're playing off of this legitimate PTSD that any degree of engagement means Baghdad, Fallujah, and that sort of stuff. Okay. But then now we're becoming weak that we're telling China, we're so scared. We want peace in our time. John Lennon, peace, 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 and sound like a freaking leftist. By the way, I agree with Candace on one thing. She said synagogue of Satan. I haven't used exactly that term, but pretty similar. She actually sounds like a reform rabbi. Her screed, see, here's the funny thing. Left-wing Jews that they complain about, globalist, Soros or whatever, to the extent that you could find people that are like that, they actually agree with her position. So I'm a little bit reticent of debating with a retard and trying to debate logic with that. But here's the logic. Israel, politics is like a blood sport. They're very closely divided. In fact, Netanyahu was kicked out a few times. Biden had a color revolution over judicial reform. Where did that come from? Judicial reform. They tried, the judiciary attacked Netanyahu. They had the attorney general who is not under the prime minister. It's independent. They almost threw him in jail. You have this trend of weaponization we've seen in France, other places. They have a very robust left wing there. They have the Hebrew language media is communist. Okay. So they view people like me as Nazis, and they actually say it. When you talk about the Gaza pullout, giving Hamas Gaza, the left-wing media had a 2-year drumbeat dehumanizing religious Jews. Okay, this is what goes on there. So the notion that Netanyahu has free reign as a king, that he could lie about the degree of nuclear weapons that we're trying to figure out how to blow up, but they don't exist somehow, and get away with it and have painful cost to Israel. I mean, in the scheme of things, it's amazing what God has done there, but they did lose people with the missiles and somehow get away with it, and no one's figured that out. It's mentally ill. But this is what happens when you're a unicell organism. And there's so much more to say. I know you're out of time. One quick thing. Do you know why we didn't have WMD in Iraq? You know why? Because in 1981, Israel blew it up. And they did the same thing in Syria 5 years ago. They didn't babysit it. They didn't have regime change. They didn't referee civil wars. They blew their crap up and left. And you mow the lawn. And in this case, we don't even really have to do it. It's like a question of, do we send down a bomber to Fordo or an adjacent facility after Israel got rid of their defenses or not? Now, obviously, Trump does need to be very clear to the public that we have no interest in what happens afterwards and no involvement. And maybe we'll negotiate with them. Maybe they'll fall, but that's not our business. False dichotomies is where evil breeds like a mosquito in a swamp.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Take care.
All righty. Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. We're going to stick around, do some bonus buy, sell, or hold for subscribers at blazetv.com/days for the rest of you. See you tomorrow. Until then, Romans 8:28.